On this episode of Rock Down South, we sit down with pop country artist Jade Holland. This is a super fun interview with tons of laughs, so you definitely don't want to miss this one. We hope y'all enjoy. Let's go. Welcome to another exciting episode of Rock Down South, your home for rock and country music. Today, we had the pleasure of speaking with an artist all the way from Australia. Her name is Jade Holland, and she's a fantastic pop country artist that I think you guys will be impressed with. We talk all about her background in Australia, her new single, Oh My Heart, and how she's changed her musical style throughout the years. Plus, Jade tells us some incredibly funny stories that you guys are sure to enjoy. So without further ado, here's the show. What's up, Jade? How you doing today?
Hey, Mark, I'm great. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. How's the weather down under?
Do you know what? I guess it's our summer now, and you guys are coming into winter. So I'm in the prime because I love summer.
Don't we all? It's a little cold over here, even over here in Atlanta. It's pretty
Yeah,
cold.
I can imagine.
So, originally from Australia, have you lived there your whole life?
I have, yeah. I was born and raised in the north, which is quite funny because I feel like when you get further south in America, that's where like everyone goes, oh, they're from the south, and that's where they have like a completely different accent and things like that. For us in Australia, it's north.
Yeah, yeah. So you're a country music artist. You're from Australia. So, we only have a few of you guys that have come over here, most notably like the Keith Urbans and such like that. But kind
hmm
of how did you get into this country music scene?
I actually, I'm not from a musical family, so I started when I was 11, and I purely, how it happened, I went to an open mic night with my family, and a friend of mine, she jumped up on stage and she started singing, and I literally pointed to her and I said to mum and dad, I said, I want to do that, and my mum is the most blunt, honest person. You could ever meet in your entire life. And it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it's daunting, but it's beautiful. And she just, without even blinking, she said, well, I don't think you can sing, Jade. And I, I just said, well, I'm going to have to figure it out. And from that point, the next week, I learned a country song because my parents also didn't bring me up on country music. I was kind of brought up on like Led Zeppelin and Metallica and ZZ Top and Alanis Morissette and Alana Miles and Tony Childs and all that. So, I was brought up on a very different genre or genres. And the next week, I went straight back to the open mic night and jumped up on stage and sang a country song. I was horrendous. I was terrible, but I was hooked from that point on. And I just said, well, this is what I want to do with my life. This is my dream. And I'm going to, make it work. So I, worked my absolute butt off to learn to sing, and I taught myself guitar and singing because we lived in the bush, probably about an hour away from any kind of singing teacher or anything like that, and I just went from there.
In the bush. So you had your
In the
fair share.
bush.
You had your fair share of kangaroos in that area?
Oh yeah, we had kangaroos, we had wild boars, we had goannas, we had snakes, feral cats, you name it.
Koala?
We had a little bit of it all. Yeah, yep, we had heaps of koalas. Yep,
Wallaby?
yeah, wallabies. Yeah, yeah, we've had the wallabies, and we had like three dogs and a couple of horses that we couldn't ride because they were ex-race horses, but we just got to pat them.
All right, enough of my ignorant Australia questions. Let's just talk a little bit more about the music. I'm sure you get this all the time, but so you had this interest in the country music. You were learning how to sing. What was the next step to where you started wanting to record music? Did you go to college? Do this after college? What'd that look like?
Yeah, so I actually, when you're growing up here in Australia and trying to be a musician or learning how to, where to play and what to do and everything like that, there's not many places that you can perform. So I actually performed on what they kind of call the country music circuit, which is, across Australia, there's a whole bunch of little small country music festivals where you can go and sing and you compete. So it's like a talent quest. So I probably did, I want to say couple of hundred of those throughout my years of growing up. And I kind of turned about, I was 17 when I did my last one. And one of the judges came up to me and said, Jade, you don't need to be singing in country music competitions. And we didn't know. I mean, like I said, my family's not musical. So I said, well, what do we do next? And he said, you've got to start writing your own music and record your own album. And that's exactly what I did. So I was 21 when I put out my first album. And I spent, a number of years, writing and recording and learning the industry and things like that, and working with bands and jumping in on, open mic nights and other people's shows and stuff. And then I just said, well, I'm going to become an artist now. I'm going to have my own career, and this is what I'm going to do. So I wrote and recorded that album and put it out when I was 21. And it actually really kicked things off for me. It was something, I guess, when you're learning, you don't really know what you're doing. You're just figuring it out as you go. And as well in music, I don't know that there's like a handbook or a rule book as such of what are the steps to take to become an artist. You just kind of, flounder your way through it and figure it out as you go. And that's what I did. So then, first album when I was 21.
Leather and Les Paul, right?
Leather and Les Paul, yeah. It was one of my favorites too. I can tell that it was my learning album, but I love it either way because I think I can see so much growth from that point as well. So it's a pretty beautiful thing to be able to sit back and look at.
Okay, so you got that album done. Did you get to do any extensive touring? Were you able to come tour the United States at all?
No, I didn't tour the United States, but I did get to do some really cool things. I was I still am, but I quite kind of call myself a bit of a pit bull, or maybe like a real yappy, annoying chihuahua. I'm not sure. So I got asked by a friend of mine who was in the 1RAR Army band in Townsville. He said to me, our lead singer is not well and she can't go to Afghanistan to sing for the troops with the band. And he said, do you want to go? And I was 22 at the time. And I said, I was literally petrified. I said, oh, no, I couldn't do that. And I think maybe that was like my little sheltered little country girl side coming out. And my mum, like I said, she's very blunt. She just said to me, Jade, she said, literally anything could happen tomorrow and you could not be here anymore. She said, get on the damn plane and go over to Afghanistan. And I was like, oh, radio. So I signed my life away and I got on the plane and I went over to perform for the troops. So I got to sing for, the Aussies, the Brits, the Americans, the Fijians, the Kiwis, you name it, everyone that was there fighting the good fight. And it was one of the most eye-opening, amazing experiences of my entire life. And I'm so incredibly grateful that my mum just, bluntly said, get on the plane, because I probably wouldn't have, and I wouldn't have that experience up my sleeve. But it was so eye-opening. And I had, an all newfound respect for all these amazing men and women that spend all their time overseas, so that we can all live in these beautiful countries that we do live in freely. And so I did, so I went to Afghanistan in 2014. I went to Israel in 2016, again, to perform for the troops. In 2017, I went on 2 more tours to the Middle East. So I went to Iraq twice in 2017, and I did it again early last year, just to Dubai for Anzac Day. But that was kind of, so I got to do some of that really cool touring. And then in 2015 as well, my band and I got invited over to China to perform as part of like a Sister Cities program. So our first show in China was in front of around 2 million people, which is very hard to fathom. Yeah.
Wow.
It's very different.
2 million. Good gosh.
And I can't even explain it. I still say that it was just like a sea of heads. Because it was there's no way to comprehend that amount of people in a location. It's really unheard of. So we were in Foshan City, and we were on a like a big float. They have the Foshan City Color Parade, and we were on a big float, and we got to they drove us around, I think it was around a 15-kilometer course, and we performed to 2 million people, which is my I still pinch myself. I just don't know how we did that.
Sad to say, I don't think you're going to get any bigger concerts than that.
No, no. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, it was one of those really kind of special moments. And at the time, Mark, I'm not one of those people that's looked back at my career and gone, wow, that was really cool. But probably in the last few years, I have, because I've always been just this person that just keeps going. I just go and get it. I'm looking for the next best thing, and how can I get there, and what can I do, and how hard can I work to get there. And I don't stop and reflect, but I have in the last few years, and it's still just one of those pinch me moments of how in the world did we do that.
So you become a little bit more reflective in the last several years, you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things with age. I'm 33 now, and I think you with age you kind of go, oh wow, that was pretty crazy.
So now you're reflecting a little bit more back. Are you taking a little bit more time to stop and smell the roses?
I am definitely, especially in the last few years, I spent a long time. I'm quite open with my love life when I was younger, because I wrote about it so much because it was quite comical. And when I say love life, I mean that lack thereof. And it was just, in the last few years, I found my partner, and we're getting married this year in 2023, and um,
Congratulations.
thank you very much. And it's one of those things, like I do find that with age my music has grown, but I think that grows with you as a person as well, because like I said, I was writing about my love life that you can hear on the Dream Wild album, like the song It's You, where I was singing it ain't me, it's you, buddy, like you know and I would put all that into a song, and now I kind of have a lot happier songs to write.
It's definitely nice going into different stages of life. I mean, I'm your age as well. I just turned 34, married, and just had a son a little while ago. So he's about to,
Oh, congratulations.
thank you. He's a little over a year old now. So
Oh,
yeah, things definitely change. Mentalities definitely change. But that's part of being a human. The human experience is going through those different stages.
100%, 100%. And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to reflect as well. Like, in my younger years, I just didn't do it. I just was like hell bent on, getting to the next gig or the next show, or selling heaps of tickets, or running out of merchandise, or whatever the craziness may be, and now I feel comfortable knowing that I'm like, wow, that's some of that craziness is slightly behind me. Not all of it, but some of it.
So looking back now, since we're talking about a lot of the retrospective aspects to you and what you're doing, you had the album, 2015 album, Leather and Les Paul, and then 2018 Dream Wild. But how's your music evolved throughout the years?
Yeah, I think as I kind of matured as a person, I think my music really did too. And it's so funny to see, like I look at all my what the songs I was writing, the songs I was releasing, I think it was very prevalent that I was missing something in my life, and I kind of at some point too. You can hear it in the songwriting. I was kind of pointing a finger, saying that I'm not the problem. I probably was the problem. I think I was just young and youthful, and just kind of thinking that I wanted love in my life, but I wasn't willing to accept it at that point in time. And I like to look back at it now and just see how far I've grown in my songwriting, but also in my vocals. You can hear the difference between the Leather and Les Paul album and Dream Wild album, that my vocals have evolved, and it's pretty special to hear how much your body can grow and your vocal cords can grow in that time. But I can even hear it now, with this brand new song, is my vocals have evolved even more so in, like, what am I in my 30s, like it's just really nice to be able to hear that, and know that you are growing, because I feel like sometimes as musicians we don't see the growth that we're actually doing, because we're probably stuck in the moment, or again, if you were like me, you were holding on to, hanging on to the everything that you were doing and not acknowledging it. So yeah, I think it's pretty special to be able to see that growth And I feel really good about it. It feels good. I love the new sound.
Yeah, and so you got the brand new single out, "Oh My Heart." Tell me about that one. How'd that one come to be?
Yeah, it's actually funny. My partner asked me the other day, he said, "Oh, I don't know, but is that song about me?" I said, "Yeah, well, I wouldn't know. Who else is it about?" I don't know if it's about anyone else. And so that song was, I wrote it with one of my best friends, Sinead Burgess. So her and I started on the country music circuit, like I was talking about. We both started around the 11, 12 mark, so I've known her for that long, and it's crazy to think we're at like a 20 year friend anniversary mark. And her and I have both been not completely in the same boat in the love aspect, but in recent times we have been where we both kind of met our partner roughly the same time, and it's just pretty special to be able to go through that with one of your best friends. And then we were just sitting down. This song was purely a fluke. We were sitting down having a drink. We hadn't caught up in a little while. Sinead's one of those people where, and our friendship is one of those things where if we haven't seen each other in a year, we can catch up and it's like we saw each other yesterday, like no time has passed. And it's such a beautiful friendship because I love I love encouraging her in her career because she's insanely talented. And we were just sitting down having a drink, catching up. It had been about 6 months since we've seen each other. And I said, I've been writing a fair bit. And she said, "Oh, show me something you've been writing." And I said, "Oh, I've got this cool concept that all the young kids are saying." And she was like, "What?" She's like, "Aren't we young anymore?" And I said, "Oh, it's Oh My Heart." And I started playing a little bit of a tune. And she just said, "Oh, this is a vibe." And when we were writing it, we were both reflecting. We were like, "Wow, this is super about us and where we're at in our current point in life." And how with Oh My Heart as well, I think we forget to stop and smell the roses. I guess I've talked about that, a lot recently, but we do stop and forget to acknowledge those little things, whether it's career wise, whether it's love wise, whether it's friendship or anything in life. And as well, we also forget that the world is not perfect. We try to make it perfect, but it's not. So for me, this song, I was telling her about a bit of a funny story. When I first met my partner Chad, we were out on a date. Because we had just come out of lockdown, we weren't really allowed to go to a bar or anything like that. So we went to the beach. Actually, it was at the beginning of lockdown, so we snuck out, and we did the wrong thing, but don't tell anyone. And we went to the beach. We had a little picnic on the beach, and as we were sitting there, I guess a little bit of karma for us sneaking out. Here I am trying to be all cutesy, like this new guy that I've just met, and then a bird pooped on my shoulder. And I know they say that's good luck. However, so that was the first date, and I was quite embarrassed. And Chad was very lovely, and he grabbed a napkin and tried to clean it off for me. And then on our second date, Mark, I cannot make this up. On our second date, we were at the beach. We were out of lockdown. We were eating fish and chips, and a bird pooped dead center of my head, and it started dribbling down my forehead. And I was just laughing at this point because I just thought, how could this happen twice? And without even thinking, this is so gross but so funny. And I think this was the pivotal moment where I thought, you are the one. Chad literally spat on a napkin and wiped my forehead.
Keeper.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, he's the one," And I was telling Sinead this, and she just thought, "Wow, how funny is it that we stop to forget." We forget to stop and smell the roses and acknowledge those little butterflies in our stomach, because that's what I was dealing with. I was like, these butterflies are in my stomach, but I'm insanely embarrassed right now as well. And as well, here I was trying to be perfect in a beautiful moment that was not so perfect. And she just said, this is the kind of stuff we need to put in this song, is how love is not perfect. It's just youthful and fun, and you've just got to take it as it comes. And it's just that simple, because it doesn't have to be the fairy tale, because the fairy tale will come later on, as it has after two bird poos. So Yeah, that's what we kind of wrote the song about, and I love this song. I'm just so excited that we were able to put it out. We both sat back after we finished writing it, and we were like, "Well, that's a song. That's a song," and we couldn't get it out of our head. And everyone I played it to, they were like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to release this." So I'm super stoked that we did.
So you have that song out. I know you put out a few other singles in the last year or so. Do you have an EP or an album in the works?
We do, absolutely. I am working towards an album. I would like to think and hope, depending on everything this year, but it's written on my goal list to have an album out by around October. So that's what I'm working towards. Is we've got a few more singles coming out because I've written some stuff that I'm really impatient in music, so I just want to get it out there, but. There's a plan, and I've got to follow the plan because it's there for a reason. So we're putting out a few more singles, and I'm working my absolute butt off on an album to come out.
That sounds awesome. Have you spent much time in Nashville?
I have. Well, I mean, in accordance with everyone else, probably not a lot of time, but I just pre-COVID, I was flying back and forwards to Nashville once or twice a year, kind of spending about 4 or 5 weeks there each time, and just writing and meeting people. I've always found when I fly into Nashville, it's magical. There's something that comes over you when you fly into that town, and you have the most. I don't know. I've always had the most amazing experience there, and I love it. Actually, Mark, I have to tell you about Atlanta.
Oh,
So
really?
I do. This is funny. So I a few years ago I was in Nashville, and I met Eric Pasley's tour manager, and I was at a bar, and the lady there couldn't. I'm 5'2", but I was obviously quite short, and she couldn't really see me at the bar. I was a very tall bar, and I don't know why I was on that side where you can't see me. So this gentleman came up and he said, do you want a drink? I see that you're struggling. And I said, yes, please. So he grabbed us a couple of beers, and he said, look, if you ever want tickets to an Eric show, let me know. And I said, oh, lovely. Anyway, I messaged him and I said, look, my best friend, I was there with my friend Cherie, and I said, we would love some tickets to Eric. And he said he's playing in Atlanta, opening for Garth Brooks. And I said, oh, wow, amazing. And he said, the only catch is the ticket is for tonight, and you've got like 5 hours to get there. And I think because I think, is Atlanta 4 hours from Nashville?
Yeah, it's about that. Was it 4 or 5?
4 or 5, yeah.
Or
And he
three and a
said, so
half?
you got,
It depends on
yeah,
how much traffic you get into. It could vary.
right. Yeah. So I was freaking out. I was like, I need to make this show. I have to go. And so we phoned a friend, and he was like, I'll be at your place in 10 minutes. Let's go. So he picked us up from the hotel, and we got on the road all the way to Atlanta, and we got to watch. We watched Eric just from the standing area because we had to literally run in so we didn't miss him because we were running late. And then I asked one of the ladies working there. I said, "Oh, can you show us to our seats because we have no idea where we're going?" And she started. She was, "Oh, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am," and I was like, oh, you can just call me Jade. It's fine. And she said, oh, no, ma'am. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said, I'm so sorry, I didn't recognize you. And I'm a little Aussie girl, like, I'm like, oh, no, you definitely don't need to recognize me. It's okay. And she took us up to, I didn't realize that the tickets we were given we were in a corporate box
Ooh.
in one of the suites at the new Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And we walked inside this corporate box, and we walked in there with Trisha Yearwood, with Eric Pasley, with the band, Garth Brooks's manager, you name it. We were in there with everyone. So this gentleman's given us tickets that were in the corporate box with the whole gang.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just beside myself. I was like, oh my goodness. So we got to meet everyone, and it was so lovely. And it was just I'm one of the most craziest experiences. And then the show finished, and we drove all the way back to Nashville.
Oh my gosh. What an
It
incredible
was so
experience.
special. Yeah. And then Eric's because we were telling, obviously they were wondering who we were, these strange little Aussie girls in their box. And this guy who gave me the tickets was there, and he introduced us and everything. And They asked what we were doing in Nashville, and I was there recording the Dream Wild album at the time. And Eric's band all came to the studio the next day to come and hang out and listen to me record my album. And it was just one of those, I don't know, one of those pinch me moments. It was so cool.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider moving to Nashville?
Oh, yes and no. I'm torn. I want to say yes because I love it over there. I would say, can I move for 6 months of the year and then move home for 6 months of the year and go back and forwards? Because that would be my dream.
Of course, you'd only visit for the warm months, right?
That's exactly right. Do you know, every single time I've traveled overseas, specifically to America, I've always traveled there in the summertime because I can't stand winter.
So these next questions are what we close with and ask everyone.
Awesome.
So first question, what would you tell your 21-year-old self? Obviously, we talked a little bit about being a little bit more in the moment and, being a little bit more retrospective now, but anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think I would tell my 21-year-old self, just don't sweat it, because this life, you have no idea how long we're going to be on this earth for. And I used to take myself so seriously, and I couldn't laugh at things, and now I just think, why was I so serious in that moment? I should have been enjoying it. So I would tell myself, don't sweat it. Don't take life seriously. Just let it. Well, take life seriously, but you don't have to sweat the small stuff. Let it go. It doesn't affect you.
All right, next question. What are you drinking lately? And if you don't drink alcohol, it could be anything refreshing you like to drink.
Do you know what? I don't drink regularly, but I do love a cheeky drink, and I live for gin and tonic. I live for it. Gin and tonic with rosemary, gin and tonic with cucumber, you name it. I live for gin and tonic.
I'll have to try one of those. Gin and tonic with
Yeah.
rosemary. I haven't had that before.
Oh yeah, so it's got to be like a pink gin and tonic with the rosemary. It's so good. Although when I don't know how you guys do you guys have roast, like, is a roast lamb a thing in America? I can't quite remember.
A
Do you guys do a
roast
roast
lamb?
lamb? Yeah.
Probably
Okay.
not. I
So
mean, we
like
have we
for
have
dinner?
roasted lamb to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. So in Australia, when you cook a roast lamb, you have it with rosemary. So the rosemary and garlic are the herbs and stuff that you put in your roast lamb. And so when I shared my gin and tonic recipe with a friend of mine, and she was over, and I said, "Oh, I'll try this," and I was having a pink gin, and I put rosemary in it. She loves roast lamb, and she looked at me and she said to me, "Ew, why would you put roast lamb in a gin and tonic?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness." She's definitely from the bush.
So as you know, this is Rock Down South. So
Hmm.
what is something, or maybe a couple things that come to mind, that you love about the South?
Oh my goodness. I love the food. I love the people. I feel more at home when I'm in the South, specifically. Like I said, here in Australia, like our north is like your south. I just feel like people are a little more homely and inviting, maybe. I'm not sure. I've just always felt really at home when I visited there. It's one of my favorite things. And I mean, not that I've traveled a lot north in America, but definitely down south is where I feel more at home.
Hey, thank you so much, Jade, for being a part of the show today. Where can people find and connect with you online?
I'm on all the social media platforms. So Facebook under Jade Holland, or Instagram under Jade Holland Music. I am hilariously trying out the whole TikTok account thing. I don't I don't know how great I am at it, but I have a good laugh at myself, and I think that's the important thing. And I've got a website, www.jadeholland.com.
And is there anything else that people need to know?
I've got brand new music coming out very, very soon. So stay tuned and let me know what you think.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I had a really great time chatting with Jade. She is a fantastic artist and a really great storyteller. And I certainly hope she makes it back to the States pretty soon to play some live music and tell some great stories. So make sure to go follow Jade Holland on all of your social media pages and check out her latest single titled Oh My Heart. You can find all our content at rockdownsouth.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest updates. Leave us a 5-star review if you can. We would really appreciate it. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests are theirs and don't necessarily reflect our own. I'm Mark, and you've been listening to Rock Down South. See y'all next time.